And so we are going to talk about storage and storage access. Okay, this is a very interesting interesting technology in cloud computing, uh, and it is very integral to it, because in cloud storage, basically we are talking about some kind of a an advanced technology having a couple of different types of methods for storing, retrieving, and sharing the data through some kind of a simple mechanism, a scalable, reliable mechanism. And we are trying to do it in order to have access to storage over the cloud and not locally. Okay, so you can think of it. Acha, so did anybody please start? Can one of you please start the recording, please?
It's already started.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. So you understand the whole purpose. So so the whole idea is that we want to um, yeah okay. So we want to come up with the technology for storing, retrieving, and sharing data over the internet without having this data stored locally. So normally what we do whenever we are talking about a desktop computer, right? So we have storage typically, or a laptop, we have this local storage, right? So here actually we are talking about an alternative where storage basically is not going to be present locally, but it is going to be there somewhere in the internet, and the data is going to be stored, it is going to be retrieved, it is going to be shared across depending on the subscriptions of the intended customers, the intended users. So it has to be provided by these cloud service providers. Now for storage service, basically there are so many different players in the market. Okay, Amazon has its own, Oracle has its own, then this Google has its own. Like that, actually, there are different cloud storage services that are available in the market. Okay, so this cloud storage model, it is a bit different. It stores the data, as I said, on the internet, and there has to be some kind of a provider, typically the cloud service provider. This cloud service provider, as usual, is going to manage and operate the data that is stored and offer the data as service depending on the subscription in place. So this data is going to be made available on demand, and whenever there is a requirement at a certain cost, following a certain pay-per-use kind of model. And this kind of infrastructure basically is an alternative to the local storage infrastructure. It is a cloud-based data storage infrastructure. Okay, so the advantage is that whatever advantages you get for regular cloud, here also you get the similar kind of thing. Your data, your storage is available to you anytime, anywhere, and you can access it at any time from anywhere, right? So it is accessible from any time, at any time, from anywhere in the world. So wherever you have internet connection, you would be able to get access to your storage. So this storage, basically you can conceptualize the storage to be somewhere in the internet. Okay, so how does it work then? Okay, I'm going to talk about this in more detail, and this section basically talks about it, how it works. So there has to be some kind of a third-party cloud vendor who is going to own and operate the data storage, and then it is going to be made available to the intended customers on a pay-per-use kind of basis. And this facility is going to be made available through the internet. Obviously, without internet you cannot have any of the cloud models which work over the internet to be functional. So this is the advantage, right? So you can get as much storage as you want scalable, elastic, pay-per use, anywhere, anytime kind of thing, right? And you do not really need to carry your storage along with you when you are on the move. Okay, so there are many providers already in place. I named some of them. Amazon is a big player in the cloud domain. And so there are actually so many providers in place, and there are many actually. So what are the benefits? Basically, why do you need cloud storage? One of which I told you that you can get access to the storage anywhere, from any time, at any time, and you do not really need to procure the infrastructure for storage. You do not really need to go and purchase your big hard disks, or any other different types of storage. Everything is there through the internet. You can simply access, right? So the time to deploy, also initial time to deploy, to time and effort and money required to maintain this kind of infrastructure, this is going to be reduced, right? So you are not basically paying for maintaining this kind of infrastructure for storage, right? And you also have some kind of a centralized storage, particularly for enterprises. In enterprise computing, basically this is more relevant. So for enterprises, you have all your data stored somewhere, and you need access to the data, so the entire enterprise can get access to the data that are stored in different forms from anywhere in the world. And that basically, this is a very attractive and scalable kind of model. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I can only see the page number 66.
Yeah, so I have not moved to the next slide yet. I'm just telling you, I'm just
Okay,
briefing
okay.
you.
So
Yeah, don't worry.
you have mentioned many information.
Yeah. I have not moved to the next slide. I'm just introducing to you. Please listen to me. Have you listened to me carefully?
Yes, sir.
Did you understand whatever I said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, if you want me to repeat anything, please let me know. Okay. Okay. Now, we will talk about these things later, but there are actually different types of cloud storage available. Okay, so there are different types of storage mechanisms in place, and that is what we are going to talk about. Something called object storage, file storage, block storage, etc. Just to give you an idea, basically, object storage basically talks about having all the data stored in the form of different objects. Okay, and each of these objects, also has its own different metadata that are also stored. So in the form of objects, basically. Okay, and so one of the very popular ones, which I'm again going to talk about in detail, is the Amazon S3. Okay, S3 stands for 3SS, simple storage service. Simple storage service. So Amazon Simple Storage Service, or Amazon S3 in short, is basically a model for storage, which is based on this principle of object storing, right? So it's an object storage mechanism. So we'll talk about it in more detail. So there is a concept of bucket and object, so all these things I'm going to talk about. Then comes yeah, so one is object storage, and the next one is file storage. File storage is pretty similar to, those of you from computer science, you must be aware about file systems, right? So file storing data in the form of files and file systems. So basically, it's very similar to that, and the data are basically stored in the form of files and file systems. Another example, of file storage based solution, commercial solution, is Amazon Elastic File System. Okay, EFS. Okay, and then there is the third category, which is called the block storage, which also I'm going to talk about. So like the Amazon Elastic File System, there is something called Amazon Elastic Block Store, EBS. Amazon Elastic Block Store, EBS, Elastic Block Store. Okay, so this is basically, it uses block storage based mechanism. So block storing is very similar to the way the data are stored in your regular disks, etc. So these are the primarily three different types of storage mechanisms that are in place. Okay, So if we want to classify, is my next slide visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if we want to broadly classify this cloud storage, whatever I talked about, it can be classified at a high level into two types. One is the structured, the other one is the unstructured. Okay. Most of what you see are basically unstructured. Okay. So um, yeah. So there is, to start with, before we get into the structured and the unstructured storage types, and we'll take up one by one. So one of the important ways that is adopted often is through something called message queues, right? Message queues are very temporary in nature, offers only temporary storage structure, and the messages are passed among multiple cloud applications using these message queues, right? So there are different offerings like MSMQ, Microsoft MSMQ, IBM MQ. Like that, actually there are different message queues which are available for use commercially. So we'll talk about all of these. Like message queues, there is also something called the block storage. And block storage, as I told you earlier also, that block storage, basically here you have block devices which are like your traditional storage devices, and here basically the data are stored in blocks, in bytes, in sequential order. Okay. And so we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail now. So this traditional relational databases, right, RDBMS, traditional RDBMS, it is also used, and here the cloud applications, they can use SQL server instances which are basically hosted on the cloud, right? But it is basically in the form of relational databases or tables. So the classification that you see in the form of the table over here, it shows you the different types of storage that are available on the cloud, and the different service providers, popular service providers like Amazon AWS, Windows Azure, and Google App Engine, who provides what. Okay. So this is a comprehensive summarized table which tells you the different types of storage and the three popular service providers in this market, and who offers what kind of service. This is basically summarized in the form in this particular table. Now, talking about unstructured storage first. Here the data are stored in the form of traditional file systems, and it is in the form of different blocks which are different from the simple sequence of bytes. These cloud storage service providers, they offer read or write based unstructured storage types, and this storage type can include file of up to 1 terabyte. Okay, so AWS, Azure, there is something called Google Blob Store. These are typical examples, commercial examples of different offerings of the unstructured storage type. So let us first talk about the Amazon Simple Storage Service. I told you that Amazon S3, the full form is Simple Storage Service, which is actually one of the earliest storage service providers in the cloud and is one of the most popular ones in the market. So it consists of the, it's a hierarchical kind of structure where you have the concept of buckets and objects, concepts of buckets and objects. So for one storage account, you have several buckets. Per storage account, you have several buckets. Every bucket consists of different objects. So like this, you can have multiple storage accounts. Under every storage account, you have multiple buckets. Under every bucket, you can have multiple objects. So these data are stored in these buckets and objects. Okay, so these buckets are nothing but these are like the directories, and each of them may possess one or more objects. So these are containers of these different objects. So in S3, Amazon S3, the maximum size of an object is 5 GB, and the access here is sequential. This is how it has been built. Okay, now the buckets in S3 cannot be nested. Okay, so you cannot have one bucket within another bucket within another bucket, not like that. Okay, so these are not nested and only provides two levels of hierarchy. One is bucket and the other one is object. Two levels of hierarchy all under one storage account. Okay, so you have a storage account, you have bucket, you have within bucket you have storage, object. So the naming of the bucket is unique within a particular storage account. So within a storage account you can have multiple buckets, that is fine, but every bucket should have a unique name. And same thing holds true within the bucket also. Every bucket may have one or more objects, but the names of these objects are going to be unique within a particular bucket. So there are different operations that are performed and that are permissible in S3. You can move an object, you can rename an object. Okay, like that there are different these mechanisms that are permissible in this thing. And so the objects basically, once they are written, they cannot be updated in place. Okay, they cannot be updated, and the objects can have multiple versions, and the redo and undo operations are permitted on these objects. So these objects basically, these are basically stored in the form of multiple versions. Okay, in the form of different versions. Okay, and each of them, they are going to have their own different version name. So the high availability of these objects are done through the process of replication. That means creating multiple replicas of these objects, so that you can have large number of objects made available at any time from anywhere. And this S3, it does not have locking for multiple writes, which results in the lack of synchronization. Okay, so like this, actually there are different other properties of S3, which I am going to leave to you, and you are going to go through it in more detail. I'm also, like other days, I'm also going to show you some video which is going to give you a little bit of understanding as a case study. It is going to give you an understanding about some commercial available system. So these are some of these different operations. Go through them. For example, for creating a bucket, you have a command for deleting bucket, for listing buckets, for getting the bucket policy, for setting the bucket policy. Like that, you have different operations that are supported in Amazon S3. So like this, actually there are different ones like get bucket ACL, set bucket ACL. ACL stands for access control list, right? It's a popular terminology. So access control list, so get ACL, set ACL, set bucket ACL, and like that there are different other ones for the objects also. So that is the Amazon S3, and remember that Amazon S3 is not only one of the primitive cloud storage options that are there, but also it is a very popular one. So, but then there are other players also in the cloud storage space. Windows basically they have their blob storage, okay, through Azure, Windows Azure blob storage. Okay, and you know what is a blob? Can someone tell me what is the full form of blob?
So binary large object.
Yeah, binary large object or long object. So that is basically so what is blob? What is blob? Okay,
The
you may not know
unstructured
this.
large data,
Huh?
raw data,
Huh? Huh?
unstructured raw data. Binary.
Yeah, so basically it's a binary object. Huh? So basically it's a data type. It's a data type. Yeah. So like you have integer data type, you have float data type, like that. This is also a data type. Okay, blob. Now this blob is a data type which stores big, very large binary data. Okay, so typically these are encountered in multimedia data, in images. For example, you have, an image is basically a collection of large number of bits, right? So um, so basically these blobs are basically data types that are used for storing these kind of image files or other different types of multimedia files. So anyway, that is basically the term blob. But so in the context of this Windows Azure, they have this blob storage, uh, which is provided through the Windows blob account. So here basically the user can create one or more accounts, and within each account one or more containers to store the data. And these containers are like different directories, and under one container, that means one directory, you can have one or more blob storages that can be created. So there are primarily two types of blob storage that are provided by Windows Azure. One is called the blob storage. The other one is called the page block blob, and page blob. So in blob, each blob is composed of a finite number of blocks, and the maximum size of a block is 4 MB. The maximum size of the blob can be 200 GB, and the blocks of a blob can be of different types, different sizes. So a page blob, on the other hand, consists of sequence of pages. So blob, a collection of different types of blocks of the blobs, and page blob, as its name suggests, it's a collection of a sequence of different pages, each of which has its own fixed size of 512 KB. So the maximum size of a page blob is 1 TB, and the communication to the storage system is secured using HTTPS and not simple HTTP. Okay, so because you need secured, right? So you need this storage to be secured, and this communication to this storage has to be using a secured protocol. So that is why HTTPS is used instead of simple HTTP. Like Amazon S3, which supports multiple different types of operations. Here also in blob storage, Azure blob storage, you have multiple operations like list container, create container, delete container, get container ACL, right? Like that, so all these different types of operations are supported in the Azure blob storage. So I'm not going through them individually, but that doesn't mean that you are not going to go through when you get access to the slides. In fact, you already have access to the slides. So please make sure that you yourself, after this introduction through this class, you yourself go through them individually in sufficient more detail, so that you can get a better feeling of the overall concept. So through this class, as a teacher, all I am doing is I'm introducing you to these different new concepts, but that that introduction should not be the end of it. You should supplement your understanding by going through all these materials in sufficient detail after the class. So these are all these different types of Azure blob storage operations. Now Google, it has its own store called the blob store. Okay, it has its own blob store for storing unstructured data. Okay, so so here basically again different types of operations are performed, and Google blob store basically supports flat namespace. What is a namespace? What is a namespace? No, no, you should be knowing this. This is a very common this is commonly used, right? Namespace. Anyway, for what, let me do one thing, so I will not tell you. Okay, so you have to go through it. You have to know this is a very fundamental concept or knowledge in computer science, so you should be knowing what is a namespace. So anyway, so under a single account you have blobs, right? You have different blobs, and every blob is unique in that account. So each such unique blob has binary data and a metadata, and after successful completion of storage, the app engine, Google App Engine, basically returns some kind of a key to access the blob. Okay, so the metadata of the blob can be accessed using the blob key and is stored in the Google data store, from where different properties of the blob can be retrieved. Because you have the metadata, you have access to the metadata, so that will give you the properties of the blob. So each blob in Google Blob Store is stored in the blob storage, and there are different libraries which are based on Python and Java for creating and accessing a blob. And in Google Blob Store, the maximum size of the blob that is supported is only 2 GB. So these are some of these operations again on the blob store: create blob, delete blob, fetch data, fetch blob key, and so on. And each of its descriptions are also given in front of you in this table. So these are actually some of these different unstructured cloud storage mechanisms that are available. S3, then comes the Google Blob Store, and this Azure Blob Store, right? So three commercial available things that are there for cloud storage, unstructured. Now on the contrary to unstructured, you also have the structured. So structured storage basically supports key value pair storing mechanism, where the key is used to access the value. So this storage basically does not support any schema, and the set of objects over here are grouped to create different complex objects. So supporting this conceptual mechanism are different services like Amazon's SimpleDB and Microsoft Azure's Table. These are actually the commercially available ones. Hello? Gotcha. Okay. So let us look into some of these different properties or the features of SimpleDB from Amazon. The data model of SimpleDB basically consists of domains. So basically there are different domains, right? And each domain basically consists of a collection of different objects. So you have collection of domains, and every domain a collection of different objects, and each of these objects are known in SimpleDB as items. So each of these objects or each item, it has its own set of attributes, and that is why I said that key value pair. So value basically corresponds to these different attributes. So in every item within a domain, a key is defined which is unique across all the items in that same domain. So the maximum size of each domain is 10 GB, and each item is replicated across a set of nodes in the Amazon data center. Okay, and for connecting to these different web services, there are this REST-based interface and SOAP-based interfaces that are provided by SimpleDB. So that is the Amazon's thing, SimpleDB, key value pair mechanism. And on the other hand, you have from Windows Azure, you have the table. So this table basically has so this Windows Azure table, here actually in Windows Azure you have 3 levels. One is the tables, the entities, and properties. Tables, entities, and properties. The properties are represented by key value pair. The maximum size of an entity can be up to 1 MB, and the maximum size of the properties. So for every entity, the maximum size is 1 MB, and for every property, maximum size is 256 MB. So the first two, I'm sorry over here, the maximum number of properties that are supported is 256. That many number is supported. Okay, The first two mandatory properties are partition key and row key. Partition key is used for partitioning the entities within the same table, and the row key is, on the other hand, used to identify a single entity. So the system basically is created in such a way that it will generate a timestamp whenever a new entity is created. So these are some of these different commercially available storage services, cloud services, storage clouds that are available, belonging to first the unstructured category and next the structured category. Now let me tell you very briefly some of the functions and benefits of the services and storage. So what are these different benefits that are there if you are talking about cloud storage? We already at the outset, at the beginning, I spoke a lot about this cloud storage, the different types of cloud storage and the benefits that it provides. But let me look at it in a more rigorous way, in a little bit more detail. So in terms of usability and accessibility, the user can drag and drop the files in the cloud storage, similar to what the user does in the local storage. And this stored file can be accessed from anywhere with the internet connection. Wherever there is internet connection, you can get access to your files. You can get access to your data. You can get access to your storage, right? And the similar kind of operations that you can do, like moving a file, drag and drop, copy paste, etc. So those, everything that you do over there, you can do it that much easily. Whatever you can do locally in your local storage, you can do everything easily in a similar kind of ease, with a similar kind of ease you can do on this internet accessed cloud storage. What about disaster recovery? So these cloud things basically are backed up. Okay, so in a data center, cloud data center, there is backup mechanisms in place. So these, consequently, what happens, the data that is stored, these are also backed up. So this basically helps to recover the data in case of failure of local storage. So you see that so because the way the data centers are maintained, and consequently for the cloud, these, if there is any kind of a disaster, your data is still protected. Security likewise, because you have strong typical for the commercial cloud storage mechanisms, you have strong security policies which are there to secure the data, to make sure that the privacy of the data are protected, and so on. Cost savings, because these business owners, they do not really need to invest to acquire a data store, to set up a data center, to have different storage devices. They do not really need to do all of these. All they need to do is to have access to these cloud storage through some internet connection. But remember one thing, that from a practical experience, let me tell you from my practical experience, that cost savings actually, you are saving upon the cost in terms of not investing any money to procure the infrastructure for storage, to maintain the storage, and so on. But actually, in practice, these storages are also not always too, cheap, right? So these are also, these can be expensive as well. But even if it is expensive, you still have a lot of other benefits, like this disaster management, security, privacy, and many others, which basically outweigh some of these different economic considerations, right? And you are not spending any money for your setup, you are for the deployment, right? So the other benefit is that you do not really need to carry your storage along with you. So it is there, data is stored in the cloud, and wherever you have internet access, you can get access to your data. So you're basically carrying the storage even if actually you are not physically carrying it. So in terms of automation, consumer can store and maintain the data with minimal human intervention. And the other benefit is synchronization. So the data that is stored in the cloud can be automatically synchronized with the data that is stored locally. So this local and cloud storage, these could be synchronized to give you full benefits. These are some of these different references for you for the entire module. these are there. So those of you who are interested, you can have a look through some of these materials for further reading. But these are not the only ones, as I told you already, that you need to really supplement your knowledge by going through more materials yourself, and you know, so that's what is important. Okay. So I wanted to start a video actually, but that video is 21 minutes long and we do not have that much of time with us. I did not expect to take this much of time, but let me do one thing. You know, so actually I did not plan for it, but I'm just thinking that can you guys take up another assignment like last class? Yesterday I gave you some assignment, and along with the same assignment, can you take the second part of the assignment, which is basically comparison of all these. So you know, yesterday we talked about load balancing algorithms. So here basically I would like you to compare these unstructured and these structured you know, cloud storage mechanisms. Okay, some comparison I have already done for you, if you remember. Over here, for instance, this is a comparison that I have done, but I want you to do a detailed comparison. So I will increase the quantum of marks that I initially kept for that assignment. So I know that your workload will get increased, so do not do not curse me, but I would like you to, actually I did not plan for it honestly. So but what I thought is that you know, this will give you a little bit of better understanding beyond whatever I just said, right? If you do this analysis, and mind you that for you are actually automatically getting prepared for your next test, next quiz, and so on, right? Automatically that preparation is happening. Okay, so can I ask you to you know, club up this comparison along with your load balancing algorithms. Okay, and let me do one thing, because I have added this new, I will you know, so I told you the deadline would be Wednesday, but let me give you 2 more days, right? So you know, what we'll do is on 26th. Okay, on 26th, I will you know, I will collect your this thing. Okay, responses before the class. Not before the class. 26th is a Friday. That means you have an early morning class. So maybe what I will do is 5 p.m. Is 5 p.m. good? Will it be okay for you?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is this time
One small question.
reasonable? Or you know, I mean, see, I don't want to basically, you know, put dump everything on you without you know, if you do not feel good, you please tell me. You know, I can, but what I thought is, I know that this will be a little bit of work on you, but I think that will be better for you, because by doing this exercise, you will be automatically, you will be learning, and you know, you will get prepared for your next test. Okay. Is 26th good for you?
Sir, can we do it on 26th midnight?
Midnight? Okay. No, that's fine. You know, if you, so it doesn't matter, you know, couple of hours here and there doesn't matter. So 26th midnight, 26th midnight means like, you know, you are talking about 11:59 p.m. Isn't
Yes,
it?
sir.
26th
Yes.
of this thing, 11:59 p.m. 26th of March, 11:59 p.m. So let me do one thing. Who can I ask? Yeah. So Chandrani, can you configure Moodle to you know, accept this assignment on 26th of March, uh, 26th of March, 11:59 p.m.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, sir, I'll do it.
Sir, can you
Sir, one
also
small question.
Yeah.
put up the problem statement in Moodle?
Yeah, I will see, I will tell you, I mean, I will Chandani, please you know, take this note and please put it in the form of an assignment. Okay,
Okay, sir.
so it is basically two things, right? One is the comparison of the load balancing algorithms, which I told yesterday,
Okay.
and the second part is basically the comparison of these cloud storage publicly available ones, only the ones that we have covered. Don't go beyond. Covered means whatever, you know, whatever I have on the slides. Don't give anything, because there are so many others that are also available, right? Don't put too many.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, I think Sontu, you wanted to say something.
Yes, sir. The problem statement.
That is done. Anybody else?
No, sir, same thing.
Okay. Anything else? Because I don't want to start anything new. I will leave it for today. And anything else? We have a couple of minutes. If you have any anything that you would like to discuss with me, please feel free to ask.
For tomorrow's meeting, are the meeting links same as the last time?
Yeah, so these guys, the TAs are going to give you the details. So Pallab, if you could send the details, huh? You are
Yes,
one of the other TAs. If you could send the details, okay?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so they will email you. Okay, but please, make sure that you join. It is not a good practice that you will skip. I will tell you that last class in one of the groups, when I entered after about 20 minutes or so, and I found that only a single student was there in that group. Right? This is not a good gesture from your side also. Okay. I know that Friday early morning is sleepy for many of us, but still, you are in a class, you have a class, and you have to join the class. Okay, so that's all for today then. Yep. Okay, thank you. You can leave now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.